I was the forgotten son. Now my family wants my help. I was 7 when my little sister Emma was born, and I ceased to exist. That's not an exaggeration. It was like the spotlight that had always been faintly shining on me flickered once and snapped to full beam the moment she arrived. She had curly blonde hair, deep dimples, and a laugh like a Disney character. My parents, Jane and Mark, were obsessed. From her first coo to her first step, she was the sun, and we all orbited her. I was a quiet kid. I liked puzzles, Lego sets, books about space, and lining things up. I didn't cry much. I didn't talk much either. I remember one time in 2nd grade, I stayed up the whole night building a solar system diorama out of styrofoam balls and paper clips. My mom glanced at it in the morning and said, "That's nice, honey," before turning back to feeding Emma her mashed banana. Emma? She drew on the walls with permanent marker, and my mom took a picture of it and posted it on Facebook with the caption, "Our little artist." My dad wasn't as openly doting as my mom, but he followed her lead. Emma was special. Emma had gifts. Emma had needs, I had chores, expectations, and silence. At school I did well. Really well. Straight A's, teachers calling home to praise me. But those calls didn't get returned. I had perfect attendance for 4 years straight, and when I got the award at the school assembly, my parents didn't come. They were at Emma's gymnastics recital. She was 6. She cartwheeled once, tripped over her own foot, and cried. She still got a standing ovation. I learned early not to compete for their attention. You can't win against someone who's already won just by existing. So I stopped trying. By middle school, I had a secret life. I taught myself how to code using an old laptop my uncle gave me. I started freelancing small projects online by the time I was 13. I used a fake name and PayPal account. I earned enough to buy myself a new computer, noise-canceling headphones, and a sense of control. Emma, meanwhile, was becoming a teen prodigy in ballet, at least according to my mother's endless Facebook posts. She won local pageants and starred in school plays. She also threw tantrums, broke things, and blamed me when she got caught sneaking out. I got grounded more than she did, and I never even left the house. I don't hate her. I never did. That's what makes it more complicated. She wasn't mean to me. Not really. She just didn't see me either. Sometimes I think that if Emma had turned around just once during one of her grand entrances, looked at me and said, "Come sit with us," everything might have been different. But she never did. High school was my chrysalis. I got into an early college program, started interning at a tech startup, and made my first real money. I still lived at home, but I paid for my own things. My parents didn't even ask how. They were too busy fundraising for Emma's out-of-state dance academy. I overheard them taking out a second mortgage for her tuition. When I got accepted to MIT, I told them at dinner. They congratulated me, then pivoted to how Emma was being considered for Juilliard. When I left for Boston, no one came with me. I moved in alone, set up my dorm alone, and cried alone that night, not because I was homesick, but because I realized there was no home to miss. MIT was like oxygen. For the first time in my life, being smart wasn't a weird quirk or a thing to be quietly proud of. It was currency. I met people who talked about quantum computing the way other people talk about football. I joined hackathons, built apps, and finally found people who saw me. In my 2nd year, I launched an app that matched freelance developers with micro startup projects. It was clunky, but it worked. A venture capitalist found it, invested, and suddenly I was co-founder of a company. I never told my family. Emma was struggling. She'd injured her leg, couldn't dance for a year, and was spiraling. My parents sent weekly updates. "Please text your sister. She needs support right now. It's hard for her to see you doing well when she's sidelined." I didn't reply. Not out of cruelty, but because I'd learned that empathy only flowed one way in our family. Me to them. Never the reverse. When I graduated valedictorian with honors and a 6-figure job offer, I didn't invite them. Instead, I sat in my cap and gown, surrounded by friends, and felt peace. No one called. No one noticed. Over the next few years, my company took off. I built a second startup, AI for small business logistics, that got acquired for $12 million. I invested wisely, hired smart, lived frugally. I didn't buy a Lamborghini or a penthouse. I bought a modest house with blackout curtains and soundproof walls. I still didn't talk to my family. Emma, from what I gathered through social media, was now a wellness influencer. Crystals, yoga, mindset coaching. My mom's captions had changed from "Our star" to "Emma is finding herself." So proud of her journey. The email came on a Tuesday. Subject: "Hey, from Mom." No caps, no greeting, just a wall of text. My parents had lost their house, bad investments. Dad had trusted the wrong friend. Emma's brand wasn't taking off. They were living in a rental in Florida. Could I, maybe, help? I read it 3 times. My heart didn't race. My palms didn't sweat. I felt nothing. I closed the email. 2 days later, Emma messaged me on Instagram. Her first contact in nearly a decade. "I know you're still angry. I would be too. But we're drowning, Daniel. Please. You're the only one doing okay." Then came the texts. One from my dad, uncharacteristically formal, asking if I could spare anything just to keep them afloat. Another from my mom, longer, more emotional, reminiscing about those Christmas mornings and how they always knew I'd be something special. It was surreal. Like ghosts from a past life had decided to text me. Emma tried calling. I let it ring out. Then she sent a voice message, her voice cracking halfway through. "I know we messed up. I know I was blind to it all. I don't expect you to forgive us. But please, we're desperate." That word, desperate, clung to me like static. I gave myself 3 days. On the 3rd day, I booked a flight. I flew out. I didn't tell them. I just showed up, parked across the street from their rented duplex, and watched. The place was small, faded paint, overgrown lawn, a cracked window covered in duct tape. I sat in the rental car, engine off, fingers drumming on the steering wheel, trying to figure out what I wanted from this. Closure? Revenge? Understanding? Emma answered the door when I finally knocked. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her hoodie hung off one shoulder. Her eyes were hollow. "Daniel?" She stepped out and hugged me. I didn't return it at first. Inside, it was worse. Boxes everywhere, unpaid bills on the table. My dad was in a recliner staring at the muted TV. My mom was folding clothes on the couch, her movements robotic. They looked up. Their expressions were equal parts shame and hope. "We didn't think you'd come, Wayne," my mom whispered. I sat down. "I'm not here to fix your lives." Silence. "I'm offering a one-time transfer. Rent, food, a bit of cushion. But that's it. You all need to figure out the rest. Emma, you find real work. Dad, you stop investing in get-rich-quick schemes. Mom, you stop pretending we're the Brady Bunch." My dad bristled. "We were just trying to make something of ourselves." I stared him down. "At the cost of your son?" More silence. Emma reached over and squeezed my hand. "I'll take the job. Any job." She meant it. 3 weeks later, she texted me a selfie from the front desk of a nonprofit for domestic abuse survivors. She'd started as a receptionist. Told me she cried during her lunch break the first day because it felt good to do something that mattered. We started talking again. Weekly calls. She apologized for everything again and again, never asking for anything in return. My parents? They sent a card on my birthday. Inside was a family photo from 15 years ago, a younger me blurry in the background. No note. I never responded. Update, Emma just got promoted. She texted me a selfie with her new badge and a dumb grin. I smiled for real this time. A few days after that, she called me while on her lunch break. Said she was nervous about a presentation she had to give to the board. She'd never done anything like it before, and she didn't want to screw up. I talked her through it, how to organize her thoughts, how to lead with impact, and how to leave room for questions. It felt surreal. The Golden Girl was asking me for help, and she was listening. The day after her presentation, she sent me a voice message. "It went amazing," she said, her voice trembling with relief. I felt like I actually mattered in the room, not because of how I looked or who I knew, but because of what I knew. Thank you. That message hit different. It wasn't just about a job, it was about growth. It was about her finally stepping into her own skin, not the pedestal we were both pushed onto or off of. Later that week, she mailed me a small package. Inside was an old photo of us as kids, one I'd never seen before. We were at a beach, both squinting into the sun. She'd drawn a little cartoon sun over our heads and written, "Look, we were both shining?" I cried. I didn't expect to, but I did. Update 2. It's been 8 months since I flew out to see them. Emma's still working at the nonprofit. She's moved out of the Florida duplex and into a tiny apartment above a bookstore. She says it smells like paper and cinnamon all the time, and she loves it. She's also started therapy, something I didn't think either of us would ever do. She told me she realized that so much of her life had been spent trying to live up to being the favorite, that she never asked who she really was. I said I understood, because I'd spent my life being invisible, and only recently started asking the same question. Our conversations have changed. We talk about books now, politics, relationships. She's dating someone who works with foster kids, and from what I've heard, he's quiet and kind. I hope that means something. As for my parents, my mom reached out again. Another email. This time she attached a scanned copy of a family photo collage she'd made for her church group. She wanted me to know I was included in the corner. She called it a peace offering, but it felt more like a paper Band-Aid on a broken leg. I didn't reply. Update 3. Emma invited me to Thanksgiving. I hesitated. For days. Part of me didn't want to open old wounds. Another part knew it wasn't about the turkey or the table, it was about her. I went. It was just the two of us and her boyfriend, Chris. He cooked. She decorated with little fall leaves and candles. It was quiet, warm, and safe. At one point, Emma stood up and said, "I just want to thank you for being here. You didn't have to be, but I'm really, really glad you are." I felt something shift. I helped her wash dishes after. She told me she was thinking about writing a blog post about our story. Not naming names, just the feeling of losing and rebuilding family. I said it sounded like a good idea. When I left that night, she hugged me again. This time, I hugged her back. Update 4. Emma's blog post went viral. She sent me the link one morning. It was titled "The Brother I Never Saw Until I Needed Him Most." I read it with coffee in one hand and my phone in the other. It was raw, vulnerable, and honest. She wrote about our childhood, the light that was always on her and the shadow I lived in. She wrote about realizing too late how much she'd taken for granted, and how redemption isn't owed, but offered. The comments poured in, hundreds, then thousands. People wrote things like, "I was the forgotten sibling too, and your honesty gives me hope." One message stood out. It was from a woman who said her own brother had cut ties with the family and she never understood why, until now. She said she was going to call him that night. Emma forwarded it to me and just wrote, "We might have done something good here. And you know what? I think she's right. We didn't just rebuild a bridge. We lit a path for others. And for the first time, I feel like the spotlight is big enough for both of us."